This is either going to be a challenge, or a lot of fun, or a lot of bloodletting. Time will only tell. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, August the 10th, 2020. Vlog number 152 of our time with the coronavirus. And let's get right into things. What have I been working on? Well, have some coffee. And I have nothing to show you at the moment for it. I've already shown you the pattern, but it's the strip tube Tannenbaum quilt. Tannenbaum is German, as you know, for Christmas tree or for tree. I'm not sure if it means Christmas tree or just tree, but either way. So I've been working on that, and it's coming along quite nicely. Just getting my squares together, and then I can start sewing the rows. And so my plan today is, looking out my window, it looks like a really nice day here, and it is August, and here in Canada that means the beginning of the end of the summer. We only get about 2 months of decent weather if we're lucky, at least in my area, and that's usually July and August. So here we are, 10th day of August. Suddenly it will be September. So when we could have very nice weather in September, and technically until September the 21st, it is still summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. But the weather's not usually that nice. So I thought I'd take advantage of that. I'm going to take my sewing machine outside. And when I say outside, I mean underneath my deck in our patio area. And I'm going to blitz this quilt. If I do it inside, I could work on my Halloween wall hanging, which I'm going to show you in a second, while I'm sewing squares together. But my attention gets diverted, and I need to concentrate on one thing at a time. And I just think it's a little nicer atmosphere. And it just, brightens up your day, kind of a thing. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work outside and work on my Christmas quilt, my Tannenbaum. And I'm also been working on my Halloween wall hanging, which is all embroidery, as you know. And I've got another row done, so I thought I'd show it to you. Here it is. I think it's coming along quite nicely. It does take 2 hours for each one of these blocks. And it's heavy. Right now it's very heavy because that's all solid thread in this. But another few weeks I should have that done if all goes well. Now you're probably saying to yourself, but wait, aren't you having trouble with your embroidery machine? Yes, I am. But I have some news about that, so hold tight. I'm going to bring you up to speed on my continuing saga of the Janome 15,000 Horizon embroidery / sewing machine. Okay, so that's what I've been working on. And what else? Well, I'm going to save the next thing, I think, for what I just bought because it works better in that section. So let's go right to the YouTube channel of the week. This week's YouTube channel is called Lisa Walton Artist. Lisa Walton is an Aussie, and what she does every week is she interviews people who have created astounding works of art in the form of quilts. What's really interesting about this, however, is not just the quilts themselves, but the whole process by which these artists have put the final quilt together. You get a look into their creative process, which I find very inspiring. Also, a lot of times they talk about things that I find myself doing as well. Now, my end result is not quite what their end result is, but nevertheless, there is definitely a connection with the process, and I think other people watching this YouTube channel will find the same connection. So if you want to hear inspiring stories, you want to see highly creative and imaginative products, then check out Lisa Walton Artist. So if you're really interested in the artistic background to the creation of art quilts especially, and it is fascinating to listen to these artists talk about their process, they make me feel a little inadequate because they have a reason for why they create their art. There is a meaning behind it. They're trying to capture an emotion or a moment in their lives or something like that. I just quilt because I like putting pieces of fabric together and sewing. I don't really have anything in my quilts that represents symbolically how I feel or anything like that. It makes you feel like maybe you're not a true artist if you don't do that. I'm not sure. How do you feel about it? I think anybody who creates is an artist, no matter what it is that they create and for whatever reason they create. But it is interesting to listen to these artists talk about their process and what inspires them and the meaning behind their works. Okay, I've got the link for that in the show notes. I've got the link for Stephen and Walter Live. I'm going to pick up on our discussion. We had a fairly serious discussion. I got a little bit almost angry. I'm sure people could detect that in my voice when I was talking yesterday about the topic of kids going back to school. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today as well. And I'm sorry for those of you that may have tuned into Stephen and Walter Live or watched the replay. Some things may be repetitious, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, and I really need to talk about what's bothering me about this whole process a little bit more. Maybe that's cathartic, I don't know, but I just need to do that. So please bear with me today during my What's Pissing Me Off segment, my rant. Okay, and the link to the book of the week is there, and you'll also find two other links, and I'm just looking at my show notes now, and I forgot to put the link for the one in, but I will do that. There's a link for Craft and Chat, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how that went when we did that on Wednesday. And I've got all of the segments for the Clockwork Garden Journal that I've been working over the past 5 weeks on, all put together as one single video. So if you want to go back to watch any of those, today I'm going to put up the last segment here in the vlog. But if you want to see the whole thing from beginning to end without any interruption, meaning it's not part of my vlog, then I've put a link to that compilation in the show notes as well. So let's get right into it. What's pissing me off this week? Okay. This is August. I know that many schools in the States go back in August. In Canada, generally speaking, we don't go back in until the first week of September, right after Labor Day. And that's the plan for this year. And the plan is that the kids are going back to school, albeit it's going to be different environment. The government has put some regulations and guidelines into place to keep the kids safe. Well, what has our government done? Well, basically, what can they do? Okay? Social distancing. So they're going to have less kids in a classroom. In the high school level, I think they're going to have maybe about 15 kids in a classroom, where generally speaking, in the last year anyways, there's been upwards to 40 in a classroom, depending, which is way too many. The classrooms on schools, no matter the new schools or the older schools, they do not have the physical capacity to handle that many kids. So 15 kids in a class in high school. In elementary school, they're going to keep the classes the same size, but the kids all together. They're calling it a cohort. Okay, fancy word for we're sticking all your kids in a group. They're going to have, close to 30 in that with one teacher stuck in the same room all day. Well, in elementary school, to my recollection of it anyways, that's usually the way anyways. But they're going to keep all the kids together for recess, the whole bit. So they create this, another word I'm hating right now, bubble. I hate that word, bubble. Bubbles are meant for bursting. Think about that in conjunction with the COVID virus. But anyways, that's what they're going to do. They're giving more money for PPE for the teachers. Wow, more masks. Great, wonderful. Scare the little kids. Watch the first day of school. Your teacher walks in wearing a visor, a face mask, and a plastic gown and gloves. Hello. That's really going to set up some nightmares for some of the little kids, I think. And the kids, of course, all have to wear masks as well, except only at grade 4 and up. Grade 3 and down, no masks. I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. I mean, sure, little kids might have a hard time keeping them on, but then again, little kids can be trained. They're not that stupid, okay? If you got to get out a staple gun and staple gun it to their face, so be it. I'm being facetious. I wouldn't use a staple gun. Nail gun would be good. Never mind. Okay, so that's what they have in place. Oh yeah, and they're giving more money so custodians can do more cleaning as well. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound to me like a plan. That's a piecemeal piece of legislation or whatever it is to keep parents happy. Okay, so this is what I have a problem with. Send those kids back to school. Put all these restrictions and safeguards in place. Within 2 weeks, mark my word, within 2 weeks, in one of the schools, there's a lot of schools in our province, okay, a lot of schools, there's going to be some kid that's going to come in contact or get the virus or be asymptomatic. It's going to spread to other kids or to a teacher. And then what are they going to do? What are they going to do at that point? Sure, send the kid home, isolate him for 2 weeks, whatever. Send the teacher home, isolate him or her for 2 weeks. That's not enough. You're going to send all the kids in that particular kid's class home and isolate them for 2 weeks. Yeah, is that going to work? I think what they'll end up doing is the whole school system will be shut down before it even gets started. Maybe not, but I think that's a very good possibility. The other thing is that the government has put this all together based on information from the doctors and authorities at one of the leading hospitals for sick children in Toronto, sick kids, okay? And they say that they have put these restrictions together under advisement from these medical authorities. But no, they have not followed all of the medical authorities' suggestions and guidelines. And the other thing I have a problem with is, yes, it was good that they consulted medical authorities because right now it's a medical crisis, isn't it? So they're the experts, they're the people that you go to for advice. But there's another party that's involved with this, and it's the frontline teachers, the ones who will be facing COVID virus from these little germ carriers, i.e. children, on a daily basis. Did they consult with them? These are the experts in the classroom. I was a teacher for 31 years, you know that. I am an expert in my field, okay, as any teacher is. 31 years of experience, umpteen million courses and seminars and professional development training and everything in all kinds of things to do with education. I would not have the gall to tell the medical community how they should run their medical facilities or what advice they should be giving out because I don't know. And medical authorities are not authorities on education. That's not their specialty. So wouldn't it just behoove the government to not go to both groups, the medical and the education community? But they didn't. They didn't. Or they may have made pretend, well, our government does do this. Our provincial government has this ability to pretend that they consulted people, but they really just do their own thing. So basically, they're putting plans together that are based on half of the information because they didn't consult the education community, the other half of this, consultation process. So this is what the kids are going back into, a half-ass idea of how to keep them safe. But I could lay the blame on the virus. I could lay the blame on the government and their handling of it. But actually, I lay the blame on parents. And this is where I'm going to get into trouble. Let me just remind you that this is my YouTube channel, my opinion, and you are free to weigh in on this. However, do so constructively. I say that because I'm going to get some of you riled up here in a minute with what I'm going to say. But let's remember, it's my channel. If I don't like what you have to comment on or say, I will block you. I will. Do I not believe in free speech? Yeah, I do. By the way, we don't have free speech in Canada. That's a myth. Okay, it's not in our Constitution. Okay, that's in the American Constitution. Okay, it's not in ours. However, I digress. the reason I'm saying this is when we start talking about kids and parenting, it's a very emotional kind of thing, and I get that. But just because I do not have children does not mean I don't know what I speak thereof. I did have children. I had thousands of them in 31 years. I saw examples of good parenting and bad parenting and everything in between. Okay? So it's not like I have no idea whatsoever what it's like to bring up children. In fact, I probably have a better idea of what it's like to bring up children from over 31 years of experience, because parents have turned around and have allowed institutions like the education system bring up their children for them. And this is where I have the problem, right here with the parents. The parents have been crying and bickering for the last 2 months about getting the schools open and getting their sweeties back into the classroom, and they have been lobbying our provincial government for this. Now, I don't mean all the parents have done this, but, you know, what do we have to look for? We don't know. The parents that haven't been doing it we don't know anything about what they're thinking or saying, because they're not thinking or saying it out loud. It's the vocal minority, probably a vocal minority, that have made the big stink. And why have they made the big stink? Well, their attitude is, the medical authorities tell them and everything, that mentally and emotionally, the kids being away from school for the length of time they have been so far, and this whole thing with being isolated and whatnot, is causing a mental toll on our children. That these kids are having psychological problems, and if they don't get back to school now, these problems are only going to get worse. Bullshit. I call bullshit. Kids are extremely resilient and adaptable, something that adults aren't. We lose that. When we become adults or something, many of us lose our ability to be resilient and adaptable. We really do. We think we might be, but most of us really aren't. We're creatures of habit, of tradition, and we want everything to work nicely. And these parents want to go back to work. Okay, I get that. We need money for food and the essentials and things like that. But let's look at the modern lifestyle. Okay? Many of the people, the ones that are the loudest about this kids going back to school, come from the middle class. So, yeah, they have money. They're not rich. But, you know, they basically know where their next meal is coming from, and they can make their house payments and things like that. But in most households with 2.5 children, there are 2 parents. Now, this is, of course, the statistical standard. We know there are single parents out there. We know there's different incomes and things like that. It's not black and white. It's definitely very gray. However, many of these parents in the middle class both have jobs. Well, they need 2 jobs in order to afford 2.5 cars that they have in their driveway, to afford the big house. They might have 2 children, but they have a 3,500 square foot or 4,000 square foot home. 4 bedrooms, the great room, the family room, the living room, the kitchen, the rec room, the big backyard, the whole bit. Which in Canada, houses are expensive, especially in my area. So they have all that. And, because they work all day long, they're tired out. So what do they do for dinner? They either bundle up the kids and go out for dinner, well, in the good times, okay, before COVID, or they're skipping the dishes now and they're having food delivered in. That's costly. You know how much that costs? Walter and I, we used to eat out on a fairly regular basis. Not every night, but at least once or twice a week. And we have saved so much bloody money now that we're not going out to eat. It's incredible. I don't know if this thing ever works itself out and we can go back to normal life again. I think we'll be thinking twice about how often we eat out. Because we have saved a bucket load of money. We really have. So you have this. So these people, basically what I'm saying is, need to get back to work to maintain the lifestyle they've grown accustomed to. But kids put a monkey wrench into all of that because especially the younger ones, who's going to look after them? Right now, some daycares in our province have been opened up, but again, they've been restricted and they can't take in as many kids as they were used to taking in. So parents now are scrambling to find babysitters for their kids. And you see, the school system is a great babysitter. I mean, your kid's in school all day. Get them into an extra after-school curricular thing. That buys you another couple of hours before you have to pick them up and take them home. Okay, wonderful. Now suddenly, if the schools aren't open, you have a problem. So what do? Well, you either have to hire someone to privately look after your children, or maybe you've got mom and dad, the grandparents. Maybe they can look after them. I think that's a stupid thing to do. I mean, I know grandparents love their grandchildren and want to be around them, but come on. My mother said to my brother when they were expecting their first child, so my parents' first grandchild, my mother said to my brother, "We're going to love your children. It's great to have grandchildren, but I just want you to know we are not a babysitting service. In a crunch or every now and then, we'll look after them, no problem. But," and both my brother and my sister-in-law worked, "but we're not taking them on full time. We had our kids." Okay? So I get it. Yep. My mother stuck to that too. Of course, then my brother moved his whole family out to BC, so no problem there at all. Anyways, what I'm saying is the bringing up of children and keeping your children safe is not the responsibility of the government or of an educational institute. Its only responsibility is that of the parent. The parents brought these children into the world. It's their responsibility. Everybody has a choice. Nobody has to have children. And there are many couples out there, and I'm talking about heterosexual couples that don't have children. And sometimes people look down their noses at them. Oh, why? You're just not fulfilling your obligation as a woman if you don't have children. You're just not fulfilling your obligation to society if you're not populating the population. I mean, the Catholic Church, whoa, don't get me started on that one, is a big pusher for the family, to keep the population going, kind of a thing. Yeah, we have enough people in the world. It's the parents' responsibility to keep the children safe, not dump them into an institution for that. But our government is so weak, the provincial government, it won't stand up to the parents because, you're only as good as the votes you can get in your next election as a politician. So they're bending to the pressure that these parents are putting on the government. Now, again, I don't think it's all parents. I think it's a small segment of them, but that segment is extremely loud and are getting attention. Okay? So the government piecemeals together this plan that's going to blow up in disaster. It's just a recipe for disaster. Anybody with a logical thinking mind, can see this. It is as clear as the writing on the wall. Kids are little germ bags. They are. I know. They start sniffling in the middle of September, and their noses do not start to dry up until just about the beginning of June. And they're coughing, and they're spitting, and they're touching, and everything is covered in their germs. And I don't care how many times a day custodial staff come in with their Lysol and spray down the classroom. You can't get it all. Washrooms in a school. Oh, if you want to see a horror story, check out a high school, and I'm probably the same with elementary. Check out a high school boys or girls washroom. The janitors are in there many times in the day cleaning them up, and it doesn't matter what they do. They are horrible. They just, how they can be, I can't even describe the horror you will see in a high school bathroom. And it's not because the custodial staff are not trying to keep it clean. They are. But let's face it, in a high school, you have, the high schools I worked in, had, from 1,000 to 2,000 kids in them. And there's not that many washrooms in a high school. So, yeah, you've got a lot of kids using the facilities on any given day. So that's just a breeding ground for disease there. So what are you going to do? Lock the washrooms so the kids can't go to the washroom when they're at school? Well, you can't do that. Okay? It's another health risk. So there is no way that schools can be kept pristine and germ-free and COVID-free. There is no way. But the blame, when these kids come down with it, bring it back home, the blame is solely on the parents. Now, people are going to say, yeah, good for you. You were a teacher, you're retired, you've got a decent pension and all that kind of stuff, and you don't have the expenses of having a children. No, I don't. That was a choice. That was a choice. I may be gay, and that was not a choice, but I can have children. I could have children as a gay man in Canadian society. Walter and I both decided a long time ago we were not having children. Simple as that. So, yeah. Am I financially in a bad place? No, I'm not. I'm not. I have a decent pension. My house is paid for. I do not have car payments. I don't live high off the hog because I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. Yeah. But why am I comfortable? I will tell you why. Planning. We thought this out over the years. We did not get ourselves in the debt. We didn't buy the biggest house on the market. We do have 2 cars, one each. Basically, there's only one that we really drive much anymore. And, I think when the other car, my car, which is the older one of the 2, when it starts to go, or Walter starts to go, I think we'll probably not buy a second car, or we don't need a second car. We'll save money there on insurance, gas, the whole bit. All of that was planning, okay? And we're not unique. Everybody can plan. You have to plan your life. So if you plan to have children, you must have realized how much that was going to cost you. There is a financial obligation and possibly burden in having children. They're not cheap to raise. No, they're not. But what price are you going to put on the head of your child? Because that's basically what you're doing. You're saying, I need to go out and I need to continue working the way I have been because I want to maintain the lifestyle I have grown accustomed to at the cost of risking my child's life or risking the lives of other children around them or yourself. You send them off to the grandparents to look after them. That's really nice. Great gift for Granny and Grandpa, right? Who are in the vulnerable age. Your kid comes home, it's got COVID. The older parents or grandparents, they end up catching it and they die. That's a real win. Isn't that being responsible as a citizen? Yeah, all because you need to work. Now, let's talk about special cases. We started on this yesterday a little bit. Let's talk about the single parent out there, okay? Now, for whatever reason, they're a single parent, whether it's divorce, whether it's by choice, whatever, you still have a responsibility to your child. But now there's only maybe one person bringing in an income. Yeah, that one I don't know how you get around. I really don't have a solution to that. So I feel for you. But again, and this is going to get me in trouble. Remember, my channel. Why are you a single parent? Okay, first of all, if it was by choice, if you decided, I don't need to have a woman or a man in my life, but I'm going to have a child. And let's face it, most single parents are women, okay? But I don't want to sound sexist in this. There are single parent men too out there. But they decided for some reason they wanted a child. They didn't want the partnership to raise that child. They just wanted the child. So they had the child in whatever way. Well, okay, planning. A single parent, the cost of raising a child is even more so than what it is for 2 people together. I mean, there's a whole lot of other things that's going to cost you, not just mentally, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, the whole bit. But they're still your responsibility. They are not society's responsibility. You've heard the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. Bullshit. It takes good parenting to raise a child. Don't lay it on everybody else's shoulders because you had these kids. Okay? And then, of course, there's the ones that, oops, we didn't really do Planned Parenthood. So we've had several. You know, shouldn't have had that second bottle of wine. Really. With that whole bit. Again, your responsibility. No matter how you brought these little human beings into the world, they are still yours and yours alone responsibility. So, put on your big boy, big girl panties, grow a pair, and take that responsibility. And don't be dumping it on the government or the educational system. Okay? Reevaluate your life and your lifestyle. I am sure there are things you can do, but the thing is, it's for you to do it. It's not my responsibility. It is not the responsibility of anybody else. It is your responsibility to make it work. So make it work. Because if you don't make it work, the second wave is coming. And the second wave is going to come out of the school system. For sure. That's where it's going to come from. And you are giving your children a death sentence. So if that's how much you care about the little people you brought into the world, that you will risk their health, their life, simply so you can buy the deluxe pizza online, then you need to rethink. So that's what I'm pissed off at this week. And now the comments will come in. Yeah, well, if you're not nice, bye-bye. Okay. As I've said before, my channel. Okay, let's move on to nicer topics, shall we? So what's new? Well, I think I mentioned last week or something that I was doing these hexagons, English paper piecing. It's hand sewing, and I'm not a fan of hand sewing, mainly because, you know, I'm bad at it. But, you know, you do have to have practice. So I decided I would order a sort of a starter kit in hand embroidery. And I got it. And it wasn't really what I was expecting. I got it off of Amazon, from Amazon. It came in this nice little bag. It cost me about $36 or something like that. And it came with, you know, basically a lot of stuff. All these threads. I don't know who manufactures the threads, but I see on the label this is made in China, so I have no idea, because I have no experience, whether this is good quality embroidery thread or not. And, you know, quite frankly, I don't care at this point, because I don't know if I'm ever going to do this. It came with a selection of hoops made of wood. And there's, so it came with 5 hoops. There are 4 here, but I have one already that I've started to set up that I'll talk about in a minute. So it came with those. It came with needles. It came with some little snips. These are things I don't really need. I already own, of course. It came with a little ripper, a seam ripper. It came with, they call this a thimble. I'm not sure what finger it's supposed to fit on, but my smallest finger is my little finger. Yeah, so they must have smaller hands in China. I don't know. Came with a couple of threaders, which, with my eyesight at my age, these are actually a good thing to have. It came with these little plastic spool things. Now, I'm assuming what you do with these is for your floss. You wrap it around to keep it from tangling, I guess. Because it didn't come with any more instructions than just this little pamphlet. And this little pamphlet, is it only 2-sided? There, yeah, you can open it up. It shows the patterns. This is actually more of a cross stitch than hand embroidery kind of kit. So it's got these designs showing you, you know, what you can do. I don't like cross stitch. I've tried it. My sister does cross stitch. She does beautiful cross stitch. She's done it for years, but I'm not interested. And then it just talks about like the hoops and how to hoop and things like that. So very, very minimalistic. But what do you expect for 35 bucks? And these are the screens. Now, there's no pattern on these, so I'm not really sure. I guess you just look at the diagram and figure it out from there. They're reference pictures. Funny thing is, I'm looking up here in the corner of the picture, there's a little magnifying glass. It's as though this was on your screen and you could blow it up, but this is not a computer. And I'm just looking to see if there was like a link or something somewhere. They show you basic stitching for cross stitching in here too, but there's no website or anything else attached to this, so I don't know. But I also ordered a book with transferable patterns. And so these are heat done, and you lay them down on your fabric, and it explained in the book how to do it. Very straightforward, and I did do that. And so I put it on this, and I picked one of the more simple patterns that are in it, and you can see that I've already started it. Well, not really. That's as far as I got, because I realized I don't know what to do with the stitches. So I went online and I looked up stuff and I printed out stuff about how to do basic stitches, and I'm still exploring all of this. I'm looking into YouTube and, you know, how to do it. But what I really need, I think, is possibly a book that takes you to like absolute rank beginner. Like, these are the threads. Like, for example, I know people separate the threads out. There's 6 strands or something in them, but I don't know, do you use 1 strand, do you use 2 strands or 3 strands, or when do you use how many strands? I don't know that yet either. So I've got to do more research to figure this all out, but I do have it. Okay, so I don't know. It may never come out of this bag again. It's a good possibility, but we'll see. You know, who knows? You got to try these things, right? So that's something that is new that I just got, and if I do any more with it and I learn a little bit more, I may hate it. I have a feeling I will hate it, but I got to try it. You got to think outside of the box, you know, try new things. So what else have I bought that's a new thing? Okay, so the other day I went down to my local scrapbooking store, Class Act. I have not been in there in about 5 months or longer, and of course, you know, I've slowly but surely phasing my way out of the paper crafting world and immersing myself into the textile art world, i.e. quilts. But I went in, I wanted to support Carol. She's been having a difficult time lately. She's had some personal tragedies in her life on top of the COVID, and you know, I don't want to see her store go under, and I want to support her. So I went in, but there's really nothing I need it or even want it because I have so much of this stuff. But one thing I did see that sounded kind of interesting, I haven't tried it yet. It's called Clear Resin, and it's by Ranger, and you use it in conjunction, well, I think you use it with lots of things. I know there's lots of things to do with resin, but they are pushing you to use it with alcohol inks, which I have a lot of. I will do more research and maybe try some of these techniques that are in here with this when I'm in the mood for it. So I bought that. I also bought, now I had this idea, oh, that's something, well, I'm jumping ahead. You know that I've been experimenting with printing my own fabric. Well, I've seen videos where people basically take acrylic paint and use stencils and rubber stamps to make their own fabric. And once acrylic paint dries, it's waterproof, which is nice. Of course, the texture, though, I have tried it before, so I know how it works. The texture of your fabric is kind of stiff. It'd be better if you're doing something like an art quilt. But I saw this stencil, and this is by the same company, iCraft, iCraft, which were the ones I did all that series for a year on all of their different kits. Well, it's the same company, and something about this stencil jumped out at me. I thought, you know, that could make a very interesting background on your own printed fabric. And these stencils are extremely reasonable in price, like $3.49 Canadian is what Carol charges for them. So really, that's a good bargain. And when I was in there, I love little wooden embellishments too, and I saw these. Now, I've had a set of these before that I've used and things, but I bought these as well. Again, it's from iCraft. They have some really great stuff, this company. They're out of India, and the prices are really reasonable. So I got those at the store, but I also am planning to do another project. Now today, you're going to see the last segment in the journal, in the Clockwork Garden journal, and that's done. So my next project is to do something with these two elements. I have had this paper mache house for several years. I picked it up at Michael's a long time ago. I'm not sure what I was thinking at the time. I have forgotten what I picked it up for, but it caught my eye. And I did put a coat of gesso on it at some point in time, and that's as far as I've got with it. And it sat in a shelf for all this time. And I had this little box. I'm not sure what came in this box, but I saved it because it's like a little drawer, right, in the box. So my idea right now is to create what I'm going to call the book house. And this is going to go on top of this. I'm going to decorate the outside of this house and do little things with it. I'm thinking of collaging it with some of my jelly print prints that I've made on deli paper, because that's kind of translucent when you do it, and do something with this below, stick it down, and I'm going to make a little series of mini journals that would fit in the drawer, maybe on various topics like travel, family, I don't know, things like that, special events. And in this one, make a little bigger journal, but it'll fit right in this box, right in the top, and it'll be a mini scrapbook of sorts, is the thought I'm having right now. My thoughts can change, of course. And it all sits there, and it's a very decorative little piece, and I would call it the book house. And I've got some ideas for covering these windows. And I did buy, when I was over at Michael's the other day, I had not been in Michael's for about 5 months, well, since COVID. So I went in and I bought some little trees. Weren't exactly what I wanted, but I'm thinking, you know, the outside of this little house might be nice with some little trees around it too. These are very little trees. Because I didn't want to, there's 6 little trees in this, and they were about $4.30 at Michael's. I saw bigger ones, nicer ones, but like for one tree, $14. Yeah, I wasn't going that route, okay? Even with a coupon. That's what I hate about Michael's. Everything is so overpriced, just so overpriced. And I picked up some more Tim Holtz paper dolls. I do love these, okay? But I have an idea of taking some of these and having them like mounted inside, but looking like they're looking outside of the window and things like that. These are all ideas that are just floating around here in the head. I don't know what's going to happen when I start working on that. But that's going to be my next project. And so I will do it the same way as I've done other projects on here. There'll be a piece of the project each week for several weeks in a row as I work on this. So I'll be taking you along on the journey with it. I'm kind of excited about doing this one because it's going to be something a little different. Okay, so I think that's all that I bought that is new. So that takes us to my book review. And this week, speaking of journals, I found this one in my stash, Real Life Journals, Designing and Using Handmade Books. So just as it says, it does have a, what is this? Choose your own bookbinding adventure. Ooh. Oh, well, isn't that cute? I didn't know this was in this book. It's a little mini book showing you how to do different types of bindings and things like that. Well, that's okay. Huh. Why was this book sitting on my shelf and I've never really used it? Yeah, you got to revisit some of this stuff. Anyways, it takes you through the whole process. Lots of ideas in here of different types of journals you can make and things like that. It's a very nicely put together book. The instructions look very clear, very detailed, lots and lots of pictures to show you what you're doing. So, you know, a really nice little book, great for inspiration and things like that, as well as technique. Anything in the back of the book? Ooh. There's a great big pocket in the back. Ooh, this book's just full of little treasures. And there's something in here. And what? Bookbinding Essentials, it's called. Oh. It's a little fold-out thing showing you the basic equipment for doing a hardcover journal. Well, that's kind of neat, too. I didn't know that was in there. Wow. I'm just impressed right now. And I've had this on my shelf for literally years. Literally years. Can I get that back in? Yeah. So, what's this going to cost you? Well, I paid $31.95 for this Canadian at the time that I bought it. So I looked it up, and guess what? It really hasn't gone up a lot in price. On Amazon.ca, so the Canadian version of Amazon, it's now listed as $34.03. Of course, there's probably shipping on top of that. But not a bad little book. And actually that price seems fairly reasonable for a hardcover book of this caliber. So if you're interested, I have the link for it in the show notes below. Okay, so that takes us to the final segment of the Clockwork Garden journal that I've been working on, featuring Ian. I don't know what Ian's last name is, but he's actually, Mike Deacon's partner, and it's his Digi Downloads. He's just come out with a new journal. I love his Digi Downloads. I love Mike's too, but I have all of Mike's pretty much. And he's just come out with another set. Ian did. They weren't on Mike's website yet. I'll have to check it out later because I really like the design of those as well. So anyways, here's the final segment. Okay, so I have finished putting the last few touches onto the cover of my journal. And what I've done is I've added these little corner pieces on here. These two butterflies that are in metallic-like look. They're actually plastic, but they look like metal. And then this Tim Holtz little expression on the metal bar, live the life you've imagined, and a couple of his little metal gears onto all of this as well. Now, I glued all of this down using my trusty Gorilla Glue, the super glue by Gorilla, which holds metal and plastic pieces down really well, and you've seen me use this before. And on the spine, remember I left those twine that I gathered the elastics together with this, and I just added, these were a couple of things in my stash of Tim Holtz things. Okay, I'm having a little trouble with that one. It's not sticking up. Okay, let's put that down. And they're just little pine cones, a couple of small ones, a couple of large ones. Just put them on there just to add another element to the journal. So the journal is now finished. Now I thought about, should I add anything more to the inside of this? I've got tags, I've got pockets with things in it and that kind of deal. But no, I think I'm done. This one is done. Now, just as an aside, I was thinking if I was ever to make one of these again, what I would do differently. Well, up here where I've punched these holes to run these through, first of all, I would look and see if I could find some more decorative type of elastic band for this, or I might just actually do an actual sewing technique for holding in the signatures. Oh, there goes my email. Sorry about that. These signatures are replaceable. Like when they fill up, you could put more in. That was the idea, sort of like a traveler's notebook idea. But there's nothing saying you couldn't sew them in permanently. And if I was to do that too, I think I would use eyelets up here where I've punched the holes through, just to give it a little bit more finished look to that. Yeah, so overall, I'm kind of pleased with this. I think it turned out pretty good. I think I could have got a few more signatures in here, and that would have filled this out a little bit more, so it would stay, not so much like it'd be a little wider, a little fuller looking. But then again, if someone was to use this, there's plenty of space for expansion to put in pictures or things like that, which would give it more thickness as well. So, that's up to the individual who uses this. The ironic part is I make them, but I never use them. I should give them away. I don't do that either. I have box loads of these things. Anyways, that's the end of this series on doing a journal, a hardcover journal, using Mike Deacon's via Ian Digi Downloads. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see what I'm going to make next time. Okay, so as I said, I've taken all the segments that I've had over the last 5 weeks, I've put them all together as one video, and you'll find the link to that in the show notes as well if you want to review it all together without being interrupted by my vlog. Okay, events in the past week. Well, let's talk first about the Craft and Chat. You know that on Wednesday of last week, I'd set up a Zoom for anybody that was interested, where we could meet and talk about what we're working on. And it was open to all crafters, whether you're a quilter, scrapbooker, etc. Everybody was welcome. I think it went along quite nicely. It was nice to meet people. Like, I knew names on many of them, but there was quite a few people there that I had never laid eyes on. We went for about an hour and a half, and I think it worked out very nice. Now, there was a whole lot of information that was coming out of that. So I have everybody's permission that was on there to record the session, and I have posted it on my channel. It's just called Craft and Chat, and it's got the date, August the 5th, 2020. And so if you're interested on what that looked like, and if you're interested in joining us, we have decided we're going to do this again. And we're going to, right now, initially do it the first Wednesday of every month. So the next Craft and Chat session will be at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, September the 2nd. And I will, the week before that, will have in my show notes for my vlog for Stephen and Walter Live, and if there's an episode of The Idiot Quilter at that point in time, I will put the link to the Zoom session in those show notes then. So it's not going to be there yet. I won't put it in probably until about the last week of August. And you're more than welcome to join in. It's non-threatening. It's a safe place. We do not talk about COVID much. I think there was a couple, everything revolves around COVID, doesn't it? And so it's hard to get away from it, but we didn't have any intense discussions about that. We talked about our art, about our crafting, and we shared things that we're working on or have worked on, and it's a safe place, meaning that we do not criticize or anything like that. And if you're struggling with something, with a product or with a technique, this is the place to bring that up, because I am sure there will be people on there that will have advice. Now, I'm starting to structure it. This one was sort of a meet and greet kind of thing. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have a demonstration of some technique or something I'm working on at the very beginning of the session, and then we'll have a show and share. My idea, though, is that if this goes on beyond September, that each month one or two people take on the responsibility of demoing a technique or a product that they like and have been using. So we have a little learning session, but we will always do show and share, and we'll just chat about our crafting world and our adventures in the crafting world. So I hope that you'll be able to join us. Now, I know that people who are working, that kind of thing, people that live in different time zones in the world that timing of when I'm doing it at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time is not conducive to everybody. But it wouldn't matter what time I picked or what day of the week I picked. It wouldn't be able to accommodate everybody. And so that's the other reason why I'm recording the session, so that if you can't join it live, you can at least follow it in the replay. Okay, so as I said, I'll have a link to that the week before September the 2nd in the show notes for both the vlog, Stephen and Walter Live, and an Idiot Quilter episode, whichever that one might be, because the Idiot Quilters I don't do is on quite a weekly basis. They come out when I feel I have something to share at that time. Okay, so what else? All right. I told you at the beginning, I teased you a little bit about the story about my embroidery machine. Well, okay, in a nutshell, it's fixed. Yes, it's fixed. It's not my machine, though. Okay, you know I've been using the Quilt Store's 15,000 and not had a problem with it at all. It works fine. And she gave it to me as a loaner while the other one was out being repaired each time it went out for repair. Now, the latest is my machine went in on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, and the idea was it was going to Genomi's headquarters in New Jersey. the big boys were going to get to look at it in the whole bit. And in the meantime, I brought home the store machine again to use. I got a call tail end of the week from Shirley, and she says to me, "So, how's the machine working for you?" I said, "Fine, no problems whatsoever." It's her machine, right? And she says, "How do you like that machine?" I said, "I like it fine." She goes, "Okay, it's yours." Now, this did not come as a surprise to me, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, she's been in contact with Janome. My machine is going to New Jersey, but it could be there forever. They want to study it. They want to pull the whole thing apart and study it to find out what this problem is." Okay, that's a good thing. Because, you know, since I started talking about the problems with my machine, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me similar horror stories about theirs. And they, unlike me, did not have the good luck to have a very supportive dealer. And Shirley's more than supportive. She's, you know, and I've said this before, she's gone just to the moon and back for me, okay? So they haven't been as lucky with that. And you know, seems that Janome won't even talk to them. But maybe, I would like to think that maybe they're getting the point that they need to study this problem because it's not isolated to one user, i.e. me. Anyways, maybe they are, maybe they're not. So they're going to give Shirley a replacement demo machine for her store, and I get hers. Now, hers is a little newer model than mine. I have a version 2 with an upgrade to version 3. Hers is a version 3. There's a couple of minor differences that I noticed on her machine that I kind of like in the way that it threads and stuff like that. So I'm very pleased with that. Which also says to me that if Janome has these versions, then maybe they knew there was a problem with version 2, the machine I have. And maybe they kind of fixed that problem with version 3. I don't know. Anyways, that's where it stands now. I have a machine. It is mine. It is working. And I pray and cross my fingers that it will continue to work. I'm putting it through a workout. I've been using it for a month, basically. Like, you know, I go in, I take my machine and I take hers back out. And I've been using it. That Halloween thing has been a real test of it because that's very intensive embroidery. No problems. That whole thing that I've shown you, the 2 rows, the 8 tiles and everything have been totally done on what's my machine now, Shirley's machine, okay? I may always just call it Shirley. Maybe I'll just call my sewing machine Shirley to honor her for everything she's done for me. But anyways, so I'm hoping that will continue that way. This is going to sound silly, but I've had nightmares about this. I had one last night. My brain is doing this embroidery thing and the machine is blowing up on me. I mean, that's how much of an effect this had on me. And you might think that's just nuts that, you know, woo, I've gone over the end. No, when things don't work the way they're supposed to work, it really gets me. It really does. It frustrates me. I want to know why they're not working and I want to get them fixed. And until they are running the way I want them to, it eats at me. And that machine's been eating at me, my heart and soul, with all of that. Now, let's do a negative projection into the future, shall we? What if I have a problem with this machine? What am I going to do? If I have the same problem again, I will scrap it. I will cut my losses and I will buy something different. And what I would probably buy is another sewing machine, a standalone one that has a big enough throat for doing quilting. And that's probably right now the 9450 Janome. And that's about a $7,000 machine. And I would buy the same embroidery machine that Walter has, the Janome 550E. He has not had any problems with it whatsoever. That would be my final solution if something goes with this one. I am hoping I don't have to do that because I do like the 15,000 in spite of the problems I've had. So anyways, yes, right now, problem solved. The saga, I hope, is over. So there you are. And thank you to those people who did send me the comments about what the problems they were having with their Janome 15,000. I have copied your comments. I have compiled a document with all those comments in it. And if more come in, I will put those in it as well. And down the road, I may send that whole document off to Janome. Not that Janome will necessarily do anything with it or even acknowledge that I have sent it to them, but it's there. They know that, you know, there's a problem, okay? But as I said, I think they're getting sort of the idea right now. Okay, let's move on. We had company this past weekend. We have not seen people in 5 months, just like other people out there. We do not have a social bubble of people. I hate that term. I said that earlier. That just doesn't make any sense to me. How do you add people to your bubble? We're human beings. We all travel around. We meet other people that aren't necessarily people that know the people we know, and back and forth. So this bubble idea is just, it's make-believe, really, I think. I think it's just there so you can rationalize that you're being safe. So I'm rationalizing we're being safe. Our friends, Bill and Mark from Toronto, we usually see them about twice a year. We haven't seen them in a year. And we had them out for the weekend. Now, we do know they are men slightly older than we are, but we're all in that age group where we're the vulnerable people. I try to avoid saying that we're senior citizens or elderly, because I do not feel like a senior citizen and I do not feel elderly. However, I will use the senior citizen card when it comes to discounts, okay? I'm not beneath that. And they're in good health, and they basically don't hang out with anybody either. So they came, and we had a really nice weekend. It was great to catch up on things. We have known these guys for 35 years plus. And like I said, we only see them maybe twice a year and that kind of thing. But no time seems to have passed as far as, what are we going to talk about and that kind of thing. We had, appetizers and drinks, lots of drinks, in our patio. We had a lovely dinner, the whole bit. It was just really great, because really felt like things were normal for that time. So they left the next day around lunchtime. We got up. Usually what we do is we would take them out for brunch or something like that. But of course right now we can't do that. So Walter did brunch here as well, and that was fine. And so it was just a really nice time. Now, I had made them a quilt. They had commissioned me to make them a quilt back a year ago, and I said, no, you're not paying me for it. You're friends. I'll make you one. And I did, and I was able to give it to them when they were here. But this is how they operate. When they come to our place, they usually bring a liquor store with them. And what I mean by that is they bring all kinds of wine, all kinds of beer, which we always tell them they don't need to do that. We stock up. It is fine. Now, that's not to say we're all a bunch of lushes and alcoholics. We're not. We usually send most of the booze that they brought home with them, because we don't go through all that much of it. But then they walked in the door with a big bag of wine, like about 10 bottles, I think. Might have been 12. I'm not sure. No, I think it worked out to about 10 bottles. And I said, again, you guys don't need to bring it. He says, oh no. He says, that's for you making the quilt. Well, as I said, I told them they weren't paying me for it and the whole bit. But the wine that they brought is one of our favorite wines. That is a Canadian wine. It's made in Niagara-on-the-Lake in our own province, and it is not easy to get in our liquor stores. They don't carry many of them, and he knows that we like this particular wine, and so that's what he brought us, which very much appreciated, very much a surprise, and yeah, it was just great. So we had a really nice time, and I think we've been safe about things. It's still in the back of your mind. I won't feel absolutely safe until 2 weeks from now, but I'm pretty sure they have been as well. But it was just nice, just nice. Okay, so what's coming up? Well, on Friday, we're going over to see my mother for the first time. When I say we, I mean my sister and I. They only allow 2 people. Okay, that was a little weird. Sorry about that. For some reason, my iPad just went down and went back to the home screen. I don't know why. Maybe the battery's low. That could be. I'll talk fast. I'm almost done. Okay, so Mom's 80th birthday this weekend coming. We've made arrangements to visit her. It's an outside visitation. We'll have to wear masks the whole bit, stay 6 feet away from her. We have 30 minutes. We're going to give her gifts, but they have to be in quarantine for 48 hours. The staff will take them. So I'll let you know how that works, but that will be the first time we've actually physically been able to visit her. And you know I call her all the time. So anyways, that's what's coming up, and nothing else is coming up that I can think of right now. So I hope you have a good week. I hope you're healthy and happy and safe and everything. And I hope to see you next week on the vlog. And do tune in for Stephen and Walter live next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So have a good one. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.